Darien Lake was known in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s as one of the best amusement parks in the country and was leading the way in the coaster wars. The park was rapidly expanding and adding revolutionary attractions. Today I'll be talking about Darien Lake's history and its importance in the amusement park industry. 1954, Darien Lake was built and filled. The lake was a popular swimming destination for years. In 1964, Paul Snyder, the owner of the Buffalo Braves basketball team, acquired 164 acres of land bordering the lake. It opened a small campground and picnic area. Eventually, Snyder expanded the land he owned up to 1,000 acres and then encompassed 7 lakes. He added fish to one of the smaller lakes and added activities for resort guests such as a petting zoo, horseback and pony rides, paddle boats, skateboarding, tennis courts, and miniature golf. In the late 70s into the early 80s, Snyder added more attractions, including a set of water slides called Rainbow Mountain, turning it into an amusement park called Darien Lake Fun Country. Snyder made a deal with Huss to be the American showcase of their attractions. Through this deal, the park got rides such as Pirate, Ranger, Thrillbilly, and Corn Popper. In 1981, Darien Lake got its first roller coaster called the Ladybug Coaster, which was a zero kiddie coaster now known as Hoot and Holler. In 1982, the new Aero Huts company built the park's first major roller coaster named Viper. Viper was the first roller coaster to ever have 5 inversions, and it held the record for 5 years until Vortex at Kings Island was built. Viper led the way in the inversion race and pushed bigger and better coasters. Viper still runs fairly smooth and the inversions are enjoyable. This coaster used to run 3 trains but now only runs 1 train, but it actually still has 2 of the original trains. This coaster put Darien Lake on the map and made it a destination for enthusiasts for years to come.
There we were. Remember when I first realized we should have gone to Darien Lake?
But I said from the beginning Darien Lake had the most fun with the thrilling rides and famous water attractions.
Yeah, I think I was the one, though, that said that Darien Lake has the best live shows and campgrounds. Plus, remember Kids World for Adam and Jenny?
In 1983, Snyder sold a 50% stake in the park to Funtime Incorporated, who also owned Jackal Lake and widened out Lake Park. Funtime brought some major improvements to the park and expanded their ride collection as well. Their first addition was the purchase of the giant wheel from the 1982 World's Fair. At the time, this was the largest Ferris wheel in the world. It also had some entertainment venues such as the Tops Juleby Theater, which is now known as the Grand Theater. The Lakeside Amphitheater was also built and was the main venue for concerts, but is now used for the nightly laser light show. In the late 80s, a show called Splash Mania, which is a water skiing show performed on Fun Lake, was added. In 1988, a themed kid area that was called Adventureland for Kids was added to increase the variety of attractions in the park. In 1989, Grizzly Run, an Intamin Rapids ride, was added to the park. The new decade brought some big expansions to Darien Lake, including the addition of 6 new water slides to the water park that was now named Barracuda Bay. The new water park was an upcharge from the normal park, but this is one of the first examples of a water park being added to the dry park. Although it was an upcharge, this is a very popular attraction and success for the park. After the success of the Raging Wolf Bobs at Geauga Lake, Funtime contacted Dennis Summers to build the park a new wooden coaster for the 1990 season. In anticipation for this ride, Thrillbilly was removed.
It knows your terror. Freeze on it. That's what it does. It's too big, too fast to escape. I warn you, it's out there now. Stalking. It'll rip right through, throwing you high. It won't let up. It'll track you down, all right.
New York's largest wooden coaster is the Predator.
It'll track you down.
New at Darien Lake.
The park's third roller coaster, Predator, opened in May of 1990. The coaster was initially a fairly smooth ride, however the coaster quickly gained a reputation for being a rough ride. Also, around this time, Snyder sold the rest of his stake in the park, letting Funtime fully take over. In 1992, the park added a new style of entertainment in the form of a laser light show, now called Ignite the Night. The show includes lights, music, and fireworks. The first year was held on the midway between the water park and the Giant Wheel, but was moved to the Lakeside Amphitheater the following year. All the concerts were moved to the Darien Lake Performing Arts Center, which would hold up to 4 times as many guests. In 1994, the old Rainbow Mountain water slides were replaced with a new set of water slides called Cuda Falls. The water park became included with admission to the regular park. This became a common trend across smaller parks in the industry in the following years. In 1995, Premier Parks purchased Funtime and their 3 parks, including Darien Lake. That same year, Premier wasted no time in adding more attractions to the park. In 1995, Sky Coaster was opened over Fun Lake as an upcharge. In 1996, Adventureland was replaced by Popeye's Seaport with the addition of many new kiddie rides, including a mini Ferris wheel. A new mini golf course was added that replaced the old mini golf course near Viper as well. A new water park area was built near the front of the park called Hooks Lagoon, and in the following year, a bridge connecting Hooks Lagoon and Barracuda Bay was built. The biggest addition in 1996 was Nightmare at Phantom Cave, the park's 4th roller coaster. This coaster, Schwarzkopf Jetstar, was relocated from Kentucky Kingdom. The most interesting feature of this coaster is indoors and was to take place in darkness. This coaster was removed after only 2 years of operation and was moved to Darien Lake's sister park, Great Escape, where it would stay for 7 more years. The building is now used as a haunted house during Fright Fest. In 1997, a wave pool was opened in the newer part of the water park. The addition to the dry park was Miney Racer, the park's 5th roller coaster at the time. Miney Racer is your standard Vekoma SLC that is a rough ride, but was great for the general public. It provided Western New Yorkers with a new experience that had never been available before. This coaster is still a GP favorite to this day. In 1998, a new coaster named Boomerang, Coast to Coaster, a Vekoma Boomerang, was added to the park. After this season, the park had 5 roller coasters and was rapidly expanding. A huge investment was also made to install a hotel next to the park. A hotel called Lodge on the Lake was built for the 1998 season as well. The hotel was themed to the North Woods and encompassed 161 hotel rooms, 2 suites, and an outdoor heated pool. The cost of the addition was upwards of $12 million. Also, the Beer Brothers Cafe was added, which is a full-service restaurant offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The expansion would transform Darien Lake into a theme park and resort. The same year, a new event called Fright Fest was introduced. The new event took place in October and added some new shows and attractions to the park. Some of the new shows were Dead Man's Party in the Grand Theater and the Laser Spooktacular at the Lakeside Amphitheater. Special areas and upcharge haunted houses were added for this event. The following year, Premier made an investment into the park that would change the game for years to come.
Don't miss the once-in-a-lifetime magic as Darien Lake transforms into Six Flags Darien Lake.
In 1998, Premier purchased Six Flags and rebranded all their parks to Six Flags Parks. Darien Lake was renamed Six Flags Darien Lake for the 1999 season. Darien Lake was given Looney Tunes and DC comic theming. Popeye's Seaport was renamed to Looney Tunes Seaport. The Batman Thrill Spectacular was added in the vacant building that used to house Nightmare at Phantom Cave. 4 water slides were removed from Barracuda Bay, but they added Scrambler as well. The biggest addition for this year may have been one of the most important projects ever built was announced. Superman Ride of Steel, the first ever Intamin hypercoaster, was announced. The $12 million project was to be the signature ride of the park. This coaster had a major accident during the second day of operation as a guest was ejected from the ride in the last few hills, but this did not affect public view on the coaster, and this coaster still had queues of over 2 to 3 hours in its first years. This coaster was filled with flaws, but still delivers an awesome airtime-filled experience. Six Flags Darien Lake was at the height of the amusement park industry. It was competing with parks like Six Flags World of Adventure and Cedar Point. Fortunately, this would not last long. The following year, an intimate topspin named Twister was added to the park. It was built to look like the ride was made out of wood. In 2002, Shipwreck Falls was added. This ride is your classic boat ride with a big drop and splash. A slingshot was added next to the entrance of the park, and a big tornado slide was added to the water park as well. At this time, this is where things started to go downhill for the park. The year was 2006, and the park received 2 new attractions from the recently closed Six Flags Astroworld. One of those attractions was the Big Kahuna Water Slide. This slide is a family raft slide, and is one of the taller ones at that. The Batman the Escape roller coaster, a stand-up coaster, was also moved into storage at the park. Six Flags was working on plans to construct it at this time. Six Flags also added the opportunity to meet all the Justice League characters at the park as well. 1 month into the season, Six Flags began pulling back the Justice League theming, later announced that Darien Lake, along with 8 other parks, were being considered for sale. After experiencing many financial cutbacks, Six Flags announced the parks were being sold as a package. Paul Snider stated in a radio interview that he would have considered buying the park had Six Flags allowed the parks to be sold individually. In January of 2007, Six Flags announced that 7 parks would be sold to Park Management, including parks like Frontier City and Village Gardens. Park entered a 50-year contract with CNL Income Properties. The agreement was that CNL would buy the properties, but Park would run the properties. Due to the timing of the purchase, Park was unable to add any new attractions for the 2007 season. However, many changes were made. An all-new show named Le Grand Cirque was to replace the Batman Thrill Spectacular. All of the Six Flags signage, DC, and Looney Tunes theming was removed, including the dropping of Superman from the Ride of Steel name. Fright Fest was rebranded as Fall Family Fun Fest, and family attractions such as hay mazes, pumpkin painting, and a haunted house were added. An interesting fact about this event was the park was free to enter, but every ride and attraction with its own fee. It was at about this time that Six Flags planned to construct Batman the Escape, but Park opted to build another coaster instead. In 2008, Park debuted the park's first launch coaster dubbed Orange County Choppers Moto Coaster. This coaster was a prototype for the Italian manufacturer Zamperla, as it had been running outside their factory in previous years. This coaster is built to make you feel like you're riding on a motorcycle. Park also pledged to lower admission prices that had risen under Six Flags ownership. A rebranded version of Fright Fest came to the park in 2008 and added new attractions such as a bus ride through the haunted campgrounds. In 2010, Darien Lake expanded its water park by adding a lazy river, a new slide complex, and a kiddie pool. Viper was repainted to its original black color, and Predator was given new trains. That same year, Park Management's lease was terminated by CNL abruptly. The following year, Hershon Family Entertainment took over day-to-day operations for Darien Lake and Village Gardens. In 2011, a bomb was dropped on the park.
Darien Lake remains closed tonight while the investigation continues. News 4's Anthony Kanji spoke with witnesses who saw the terrifying moments unfold.
And I just saw his arms go up, and he just flew, and he came towards me, kind of.
14-year-old Cora Mullenix was one of the many who was on the Ride of Steel at Darien Lake Friday and watched Sergeant James Hackemer fall to his death at the amusement park.
During that year, Sergeant James Hackemer was ejected from the ride due to guest and employee negligence. This accident took a huge toll on the park, and even though it wasn't the ride's fault, the park's attendance dropped significantly, and it really put the nail in the coffin for Darien Lake's status as an elite and innovative park. The next year, Hershon installed a new family area called Rowdy's Ridge that includes family attractions like flying scooters and the world's famous Moose on the Loose. For the 2013 season, Blast Off, an SNS drop tower, was added to the newly rethemed boardwalk area. which included major renovations to rides like the Grand Carousel and the Giant Wheel, as well as some new dining options. The new Ignite the Night show received major improvements, and UFO and the Cuda Falls water slides were closed and removed. Scrambler returned after spending 2 years in storage, and a new inverting wooden coaster was proposed for the 2014 season, but never came to fruition. Herschen's lease ended after the 2014 season, and park operations were taken over by Premier Parks LLC. The following year, 2 new attractions were added. Rolling Thunder, a Larson Super Loop, was added, and Brain Drain, 2 trapdoor slides, was added as well. Also this year, Fright Fest was replaced by Harvest Fest, a more family-friendly fall event. Unfortunately, the longtime classic Ranger was removed. They expanded the water park again in 2016 by adding Rip Curl Racer, a mat racer slide. Following the 2016 season, CNL sold Darien Lake and 14 other properties to EPR Properties. Premier continued to run the park without any immediate changes. Unfortunately, in order to run the park, Darien Lake had to sell the second train of many of their coasters at the park, including Ride of Steel, Predator, and Mindy Racer. 2018 was a massive year for the park and completely reshaped the future of the park. In November of 2017, a Gerstlauer Eurofighter called Tantrum was announced as the park's first new roller coaster in 10 years. Tantrum was to replace Thunder Rapids. Just days before the park opened Tantrum, it was announced that Six Flags was acquiring the rights to operate the park. Between the 2018 and 2019 seasons, the Batman the Escape coaster was finally scrapped for good. For the 2019 season, the park added Skyscreamer, which is the tallest ride in the park. Skyscreamer replaced Twister. Also, at the end of the 2018 season, Darien Lake was announced to be rebranded to Six Flags Darien Lake for the 2019 season. It was later announced that Wahoo Wave was coming to the water park for the 2020 season, as well as a rebranding of the water park by changing the name to Hurricane Harbor with an overhaul of the water park. The project is up in the air due to Six Flags' financial situation. Six Flags continues to operate the park to this day, and the park seems to have a relatively bright future with the company. That just about summarizes Darien Lake's history. The park has an incredibly unique history and has had many owners. It's crazy to think how this park was at the top of the industry just a short time ago. Ride of Steel, the Viper, and even parts of the water park were all revolutionary for their time. Darien Lake laid out the blueprint for some of the best coasters in the world. It's sad that this park had such long gaps between major attractions and was mistreated by Six Flags in the early 2000s. I hope Six Flags is able to make amends for their mistakes in the coming years. Will Darien Lake rise back to the top? Only time will tell. I'd like to thank all of you for making it to this point. A huge shout out to all the channels that helped provide footage for this video. I have credited everyone I used footage from in the description. Go give them the views they deserve. But before I leave you, we must not forget the roots. It all started with one man, one vision, and one dream.